Many of us rely on our vehicles to get to work, to school, to shop, etc. And when it breaks down, it can be an expensive surprise. Today, we want to talk about how to properly maintain a vehicle and hopefully avoid some of these nasty surprises. Today's guest is Shawn Hammond. He's the owner of Big L's Auto Repair right here in Lethbridge. And you're joining me from your shop via Zoom. So welcome to BCN, Shawn.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. So, how often do you see people come in with expensive vehicle repairs that could have been prevented with proper maintenance? That's basically what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so proper maintenance is really important when you're talking about the longevity of your vehicle. Oil changes are the biggest part of that, and that's what we see the most. People who go too long on an oil change and causes engine failures and other bad stuff.
Okay, so let's talk about oil changes a little bit. So, most of the time when people get oil changes, they get those little stickers that they put up in the windshield there. So, are you finding that people are just ignoring that little sign that says when your next oil change should be, or do they lose the stickers, or how does that work?
Sometimes the stickers fall off. Lots of people rely on their car's vehicle maintenance reminder to tell them when they should change their oil as well. So they ignore the sticker because they have a light that comes on that tells them when to change it.
Yeah, and a lot of times those stickers are kind of like the lower mark too. You can sometimes go a lot further than what the sticker says. You advise that though?
I don't. We always say you should change your oil more regularly than less regularly. So I mean, if you're pushing it to the limit every time, that can definitely cause problems in the long run. That being said, manufacturers that build the cars, they know when you should be changing your oil. So if you go by the light, just make sure that as soon as the light comes on, you're going to get your oil changed.
Interesting. Okay, so should we be using regular oil or synthetic oil? I know some of the more expensive German cars, the luxury cars, definitely advise for those synthetic oils, don't they?
Well, a lot of cars actually now are going to synthetic oil. Most car manufacturers have gone to completely synthetic. GM has been doing it for years, but Dodge and Toyota and all those other guys, they are also headed that direction as well. So they don't really give you an option not to use synthetic.
Wow. Now, isn't it quite a bit more expensive than the regular oil?
It's come down in price quite a bit, and a synthetic oil change will probably cost you about $15 or $20 more than a regular oil change. But they're also extending the life of those oil changes as well, so you can go longer on your money.
Yes, that's true. Like I know like if you have a Mercedes, you might only need one oil change a year, but it'll cost like $200 or something. Is that right?
Yeah, so not from us. There are some major car manufacturers, especially the higher end guys, where the oil is very specific and very special, and they get a little bit more expensive. Toyota is actually just rolled out a new type of oil that they're using in their cars, and it is quite expensive to use.
Oh, yikes. Good to know if you're on the market looking for a Toyota. Any specific kind of Toyota or just any Toyota, the newer ones?
We had one in the other day. It was a 2019 Camry, and it used a very specialized oil that we had never even heard of until the car had come in. Um, but it was a zero weight, 16 weight motor oil.
Oh, wow. Okay, interesting. So let's switch gears. Let's talk about tires. It's not uncommon, especially now that it's winter, we're turning into spring. So it's not uncommon to get those slow leaks, right, in the tire, particularly when in the wintertime. So the weather's going constantly from cold to mild, back to cold, back to mild. I know that Shawn, I'm constantly getting that low tire pressure alert going off in my car. And then you end up driving on a half flat tire. So what kinds of issues can this cause? Is it a big safety issue?
So yes, absolutely. So tires are your only point of contact from your car to the road. So we think that they're one of the most important things on your car. So when you have low tire light, you can actually reduce your gas mileage. You can reduce your safety because you want to get maximum contact out of those tires all the time. So all car manufacturers have a recommended pressure that you should run your tires at, and that's where you should always try and keep your tires at. That being said, in the winter, yes, tire pressures do fluctuate, especially in Southern Alberta, where we can go from -20 to +20 in a couple of days. So that definitely throws a wrench into things, so to speak. So definitely just keep an eye on your tire pressures. You should always have a tire pressure gauge in your car so that you can check them if one is low.
Okay, so is it worth it to get winter tires?
The people who say that winter tires don't make a difference have never had winter tires. We often find so. Yes, we do believe that winter tires are a good thing. Us and all of our staff, we all run winter tires in the winter and summer tires in the summer. Tire technology has actually come a long way. You can actually get something called all-weather tires now, and they are a little bit more grippy in the winter, but they do wear better in the summer, so you don't burn them off like winter tires do
Okay, so that's all weather as opposed to
all season.
all season, right? Okay,
Yes.
interesting. So, how do you know when it's time to get new tires, and how often should you rotate them?
Uh, Most car manufacturers say every other oil change you should be rotating your tires. Um, Quite often, we don't see the benefit in that every time, but whenever we have somebody's car who we regularly maintain, we check their tires every time they do an oil change so that we can tell them when it's time to rotate their tires or not. Usually works out to about every third or fourth oil change.
Okay, let's talk about battery. So, what do we need to know to take care of our battery? Is the cold weather really bad on the battery? I'm really bad for plugging my car in because I have a brand new battery, and so it usually starts. But is it bad on the battery to make it start in -30 weather if you haven't plugged it in?
So that's a common misconception, actually. When you plug in your car, you're not actually plugging in your battery.
Correct.
You're
Yeah.
plugging in a heater that keeps your engine warm, so that no, just keeps your engine warm, not your battery. So when you turn your car over, there's less strain on the battery. Instead of trying to turn over an ice block, you're turning over a warmer engine so that it turns over easier, which is better for your battery in the long run. But the best thing that you can do for your battery is not let it sit in the cold for days or weeks on end. Start your car every other day at least and keep that charged.
Yeah, for sure. So, when do we need to get a new battery?
Most batteries last between 5 and 6 years. That being said, sometimes when we have a really nasty cold winter, sometimes that will decrease the life of a battery, but most batteries have some kind of warranty for 5 or 6 years.
Nice. So, and then of course, sometimes it might not be your battery that's giving you the issue. So, we may have an alternator problem, right? So, what can you tell us about that?
So alternators are a system in your car that is designed to keep your battery charged when it's running. Alternators that are overcharging or undercharging will definitely decrease the life of your battery. Usually, you will get a little red light that looks like a battery pop up on your dash saying that something is wrong. Don't ever ignore that. It's really important.
Yeah, interesting. As are all of these the oil, the
Yes.
brakes, everything, right? So, what about air filters? It sounds like a minor thing, but can this cause serious problems if it doesn't get replaced regularly?
Not usually not serious problems. I mean, we have seen some strange things, but air filters that are dirty will definitely give you reduced gas mileage. They will also give you reduced engine performance.
Okay. Now, on your website blog, you have an article about the importance of getting your belts checked, especially your timing belt. Can you explain why this is key?
Sure. So drive belts, serpentine belts, and other kinds of belts, other than your timing belt, they drive your alternator. Lots of times they'll drive a water pump or a power steering pump. So if they break, then you lose that stuff. Serpentine belts tend to run all of that stuff off of one belt. So if your belt goes, then all of a sudden your vehicle's very hard to steer. It's not charging properly. It's not cooling the engine off properly. It's bad. Timing belts, however, are even more important. They need to be changed by your vehicle's recommendation, manufactured recommendation, usually around every 100 to 150,000 kilometers. They are what keep your engine in time so that everything is working together. When they break, most new cars, they call them interference engines. That means if your timing belt breaks, you're going to start bending valves and damaging pistons and doing major internal damage in your engine. So ignoring that is can be detrimental to the life of your vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely. I had that happen to me years and years ago, back when I was young with my first car. And it was not good. It was a bad, tough lesson to learn about timing belts for
Yeah,
sure.
and that's usually how people learn those hard lessons
Yeah.
is that you have one break. And timing belts, if you do them when you're supposed to do them, they might cost you from $400 to $800. If they break, it's going to cost you between $4,000 and $7,000, right? So I mean, it's a big hit, but it's better than replacing your motor.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so spark plugs, they can last a lot longer than they used to, but this is a key thing, right, for the car, the spark plug.
Yes, absolutely. So spark plugs are one of those things that have really come a long way technology wise. Spark plugs used to have to be changed every 40 to 50,000 kilometers, and now they can go up to 180 to 200,000 kilometers before they need to be changed, which is great for the consumer because it's not something they have to worry about as much. But when they do start to go, they will cause lots of problems. Your engine doesn't run properly, fuel mileage goes to crap, it can leave you stranded on the side of the road.
Yeah, for sure. So how about brakes? This is one thing that we need to keep an eye on. How do you know when it's time to get some brake work done? Or to top
So
off the brake fluid too, for that matter.
Um, well, typically brake fluid is only ever low unless if you have a leak or if your brakes are worn out. So if your brake fluid is low, it's always a good idea to have a look at the actual brake pads and see if they're worn out. If they're still good, then you might want to start having a mechanic look at some other issues. Um, Brakes are obviously very important. They're what stop you. Stopping is important. Um, so brake pads that are starting to wear out will usually start to make some noise. It usually starts with a light squeal, and then the squeal will get heavier. And then if you let it go too far and you ignore that and just keep turning up your radio, then you start getting grinding and starts doing more damage to other systems.
That's when you get that knocking sound, right?
Yeah, usually it's a really loud scraping sound, and it
Right.
sounds like you're dragging your muffler behind you.
Oh, yikes. Let's avoid that, please, at all cost.
Yes, please do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, spring is just around the corner. Of course, that means it'll be summer soon. So every summer, of course, we see vehicles on the side of the road with overheated engines. So how can we prevent that sort of thing from happening? And usually it's a transmission problem, isn't it?
Actually, no. Usually, if you see somebody who's on the side of the road with their hood up, usually it's because of another mechanical failure. Transmissions, again, have come a really long way. Same with transmission fluids. You don't have to change them as often. Um, that being said, there's a multitude of reasons why you could get stuck on the side of the road in the summer. Cars are full of technology and computers now, and we all know how technology works. Sometimes when it works, it's great. When it doesn't, it is not great at all. So we don't see as many overheated cars anymore because the systems are so efficient. But you should always check your fluids once a month, check to make sure your coolant is topped up, check to make sure your oil is topped up, power steering fluid. Even power steering fluid is going by the wayside. Most cars have electronic power steering now, so they don't take fluid. It's all driven by an electronic motor. But if that fails, that can also cause you all kinds of problems.
And there's also different kinds of transmissions, right? There's a CV transmission and that. So what's the difference between that and the regular kind of transmission?
Automatic transmissions traditionally had a series of gears inside, and you'd switch from first gear to second gear to third gear. CVT transmissions do not have gears in them anymore. They're basically two opposing cones, and they work kind of like the gears on your bike do. When you get bigger gears, then you get more resistance, but you get more speed, and vice versa. So basically, CVT transmissions work kind of like that, without the actual physical gear shift.
Oh gosh, yeah. Very technical. So, Shawn, what advice do you have for someone who's shopping for a good mechanic? What kinds of things should people be looking for or asking about?
Um, I always say that you should do some homework, look into the shop, call the shop, ask for a quote about something, talk to the staff, We do digital inspection for our customers. So when our customers come in and they are looking to get something diagnosed or fixed, or even just an oil change, we send them, we do a digital inspection report that actually gets texted to their phone. And if we see something wrong, we can actually show them with pictures or videos what exactly we see in the shop so that everything's transparent. They can see what we see. We're not calling stuff just for fun. It's this is what's wrong. This is why it's wrong. We can send educational videos along with that on how those systems work so that people know exactly what they're getting into and why it's important.
Ooh, I love that idea, bringing in some technology there.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like we are out of time, but thanks so much for your expertise, Shawn. We really appreciate having you on our show today. Shawn Hammond is the owner of Big Al's Auto Repair here in Lethbridge.
Thank you so much.